Well, welcome to part two of our How Do You Sneak Extra Nutrients into Food? Dina, we did not finish last time because we had so many ideas on how to make certain foods or dishes or recipes more nutrient dense, right? So maybe let's just follow up with what we were chatting about last time.
I know. I think after our last one, Bob, I did have a snack based on some of the ideas we were discussing. I was like, oh, there's so many good ideas here.
There really
And
are, and
yeah,
they're easy, right? I'm sure your
yeah,
snack was pretty easy, but just as a refresher, last time we chatted about how to sneak extra nutrients into smoothies, soups, and sauces and or dips. So
yeah,
today we're going to cover three more ways or three more, I guess it's not really foods, it's really just ways to sneak in
yeah,
extra nutrients. And listen, if you're not bought into this, listeners, you should be because anytime we can make something that we eat more nutrient dense, better vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, it's just better for health. It's better for performance and it's better for longevity. And that is why we're trying to give you these ideas. So
hmm,
let's start with the first one, D. And the first one we're going to highlight is if you are consuming rice, pasta, quinoa, couscous, foods like that, right?
hmm. Our
What?
grains.
Yeah, and yeah, any grains that you're cooking. And I guess, the first one is pretty obvious, and we stated this in part one too. But listen, anytime you can use an herb or spice, that's a no-brainer, right? Um,
Yeah.
I think in terms of like favorite herbs or spices, totally depends on what kind of flavor profile you're going for. Like you could easily use something like a turmeric and black pepper in some of these, and then sometimes maybe some cayenne pepper and garlic or something like that. I mean, there's so many ways to dress this up. So I don't know if I have a
Yeah.
favorite. I would just say try to use at least two herbs and spices in every dish.
Yeah. I was going to say it is dependent on the whole profile you're looking for, as with any kind of dish. But I feel like this category of food, Bob, invites so many different
Oh,
kinds of
yeah.
herbs and spices. So really, it's just, yeah, getting it in there. How
Yeah.
many herbs and spices do you have?
Oh
And do
my
you grow
gosh.
fresh?
It's funny. To answer their first question, I don't know other than it's a whole like entire shelf. It's
Yeah.
probably I'm trying to count off the top of my head. We probably have close to 25 to 35 maybe
Yeah.
spices and herbs.
Uh-huh.
And that's dried, right? That's
Yep.
not fresh.
Dried.
So
Hmm.
to your second question, we are actually growing. It's winter time right now as we're recording in Colorado, so it's a little more difficult. But we are actually growing some on the windowsill right now. My
Yep.
wife is taking up that project right now because we like to try to do that in the winter, spring. So by the time summer
Yeah.
hits, we've got some nice fresh herbs. But I think she's growing basil, oregano, maybe some parsley. I can't remember
Okay.
exactly which ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you? How many
Yum.
spices are in your cabinet?
I think, yeah, dried it is. I haven't counted that, which is
I
funny. I
know.
asked you and I don't even know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say it is in that 20 to 30 range.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I realize one of them, Bob, and we'll get back to our list here, but one of them is very old. And so, like, kind of dating them when you purchase because they
Oh, yeah.
do lose their oomph, right, over time.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
I had to toss one recently and I was trying to remember like why did I buy this one? Because it's not
Mm.
one that I care for. It is caraway.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I haven't really
I
used that one that
I
much.
do not dig. And
Yeah.
I apologize to our friend Amanda Archibald for like, oh no, there's an herb or spice that I cannot
Yeah.
do. It does not work
Yeah.
on my palate. Anyways,
Oh, well, maybe you could actually put that on one of our ideas today that we're going to share with our listeners.
oh yeah.
I haven't tried caraway in a while, so I can't even
Okay.
put the taste in my mouth, but
Yeah.
that maybe let's talk about that when we bring this up. Are
Okay.
you growing any herbs up in, Kilimanjaro right now at your altitude?
I have none fresh growing. Nope.
Okay. It's got to be a little more difficult in that climate.
Okay, Bob. Well, anyways, back to our rice, pasta, quinoa, all those.
Yes.
What else can we sneak in to enhance
Well,
the
here's
nutrient
the
profile?
easiest thing I tell all athletes. I'm like, listen, if you're making rice or making pasta or quinoa or whatever, and not like bought in a bag or like meaning it's already cooked, like if you are cooking it, easiest thing you can do is swap out the water for bone broth. Oh my gosh, it is like a total game changer, especially with rice and quinoa because it absorbs that.
Mhm.
In pasta, you can actually, here's my little hack, because with the pasta water, you always throw it out. don't throw it out, right? If you use bone broth in there, what you do is, and again, this is a couple steps, but remember, I'm Italian, so this is kind of near and dear to my heart, is if you use bone broth as your liquid to boil and cook pasta, then you drain it, right? But when you drain it, put it in another pan because that can be the base for your sauce, for your marinara sauce. And now you get some protein in your marinara sauce too. So
Whoa,
it kind of doubles there.
that's awesome idea. I have not done that.
That's because you're probably not Italian.
Well, or just not thinking out of the box. So that right there is
Yeah, yeah,
gold,
exactly.
very gold.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
I'm
But there
wondering,
are other ways you can sneak because these if you think of
yeah,
like it depends on the pasta, right? Like spaghetti, it's kind of hard to hide stuff in, but like rice, quinoa, couscous, like those kind of things, can't you do something else to kind of sneak some stuff in?
I mean, I'm thinking other little minuscule little pieces of, you know
Oh,
what, our veggies,
yes.
which sometimes you cannot distinguish, like visually, you may not detect it unless you're really paying attention. But for the
Right.
gobblers out there who are just
Yeah.
gobbling their food in,
Yeah.
they may not realize until they're a few bites in that holy moly, we've actually snuck some little, minced veggie pieces in there.
Exactly. And we do not promote gobbling. Let me just say that because it is not the best thing on your digestive system. So slow down
Right.
and enjoy your food.
Right.
But to that point, like I will just add, because, as a father, I used to do a lot of different things like this. It's all about how you dice your vegetables. Like you cannot cut vegetables and put them in rice. You have to dice them, like finely dice them. Like think broccoli, right? You have to dice it so it's basically little
Yeah.
green speckles in your
Yeah.
rice or whatever it is, right? Because then it's like, oh, because what does it look like? Then it looks like herbs and
Yeah.
spices. And you're like, oh, hey, right? So it's super easy to fool your brain. Even if you do it and you're eating it, you're like, wow, this just looks like a spice that I just
Yeah.
added. So it's a super easy way, listeners, but just remember mince, dice very finely. Don't just cut the raw veggies or the whatever kind of vegetables you're using. They have to be very minuscule, like Dina was saying.
Are there others that you would suggest that for people who are like, what? I never thought of putting this minced kind of veggie
Yeah.
in there. Or do
You
you
know,
have favorites?
I do. I think, and again, of course, it depends on the dish and what you're trying to do with it, right? So let's take that aside. But I love trying to put broccoli in there. I love trying to put spinach and kale, because not many people really enjoy those on their own, right? So I try to take vegetables that people won't eat by themselves. Like for example, asparagus. Most people will eat asparagus by themselves or on
Hmm.
its own, right? So
Hmm.
asparagus, I'm like, ah, you don't really have to hide that. It's just the things that are very usually potent, things like cauliflower, things like broccoli, things like spinach, kale, even some squash and zucchini. Like some people love those as roasted veggies, like the big chunks. Other people just cannot stand them. So the
Yeah.
zucchinis of the world and the squashes are super easy to hide in rice and pasta, especially if you put a little bit of olive oil in there, extra virgin olive oil. Oof, yeah.
Delish.
And don't
Also,
forget garlic.
I know exactly. I was
Yeah.
also thinking, Bob, when you mentioned pasta, the alternative pastas for those who may have pasta phobia or like,
Hmm.
oh, I don't eat that. I don't know. But, there's so many different kinds of pasta. And I don't know if this goes against your Italian self. Like, oh, no, you never use a chickpea pasta because that is not
Yeah.
traditional. But for those who maybe are trying to get a little more protein or they have gluten sensitivity or celiac, those other alternative pastas can be, I think, for some palates can be quote unquote snuck in. But it
Yeah, for
depends
sure.
on that texture.
It does, and that's one thing I want to bring up. And no, I'm not offended by that at all
Okay.
because you remember this. I was a vegetarian for 10 years of my life, so I actually had quite a lot of experience with a lot of these alternate protein sources and even pastas. And I'm all for it. I would just say, like you mentioned, they have very different textures. Like some of them like suck up the water and become very chewy, and like it's just
Yeah.
weird, right?
Yeah.
As long as you're not, I think you have to go into alternative pastas, kind of like I do, like. I don't have any expectations. It is what it is. Like I'm not going to compare it to the al dente pasta that I normally cook. You have to almost say, like in your brain, this is not pasta as we know it.
Mhm.
This is an alternative chickpea pasta, so then at least your mindset has changed. So you go into it very positive and like, oh, hey, this is a new food. This is a new thing, right?
Mhm.
But I'm all for that. I mean, I think especially for I do want to hit on gluten intolerance real quick, but like for celiac for sure,
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
For gluten intolerance, here's a quick little aside. Um, I've been experimenting with different types of flour when I make homemade pasta, and usually at Christmas time I make a whole bunch of homemade pasta. And flour matters. I'm just gonna say that really quick, and I'm not gonna. There's no research that I'm gonna quote. I will just quote real life. But I got some pasta or some flour that is truly Italian flour, right? Not U.S. processed
Okay.
wheat flour.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I mean, one, the processing is a lot less. So it's actually easy on the gut. But I actually had some friends over around the holidays, and they are very gluten intolerant. They do not have celiac disease, but they really don't do that well with gluten. And they were up for my challenge of, if they want to come over, I can make some homemade pasta with this new flour. And honestly, these are great friends because they were like, yeah, we'll take one for the team. Like, let's see if it hurts our
Yeah.
gut or not. And guess what? No issues at
No
all, D.
issues. Yeah.
None.
I'm not
None.
surprised,
So
actually.
I would say this, like again, if you're a listener, you're like, ooh, I'm very anti-pasta because it's just like it's a gut bomb.
Yeah.
And it is for me too. Like if I do traditional white or even wheat pasta that is made, the flour is made in the US, it gives me stomach aches, like
Yeah.
literally. But I would just maybe if you really like pasta, maybe make homemade pasta, maybe just switch the flour to pure Italian flour. Super easy to do. I mean, you can get everything online. You probably get on Amazon. I just go through a specific company, and maybe that lessens the gut bomb that you have with
Yeah.
pasta. Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that.
It's not a different, it's kind of a different type of pasta, but it's not different, right? It's just a different
Right.
flour.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, next category. So we've got the pastas and the rices and everything. This one's one of my favorites because it's so diverse. You can put so many things. Meat and eggs. Okay, so let's separate it into meat first. And what I was thinking mostly is like crushed. So like ground turkey, ground beef, because you can hide so many things in that kind of like versus like a steak. Like you can't
Hmm.
can't hide too much in a steak. I mean, I guess you
Hmm.
could, but you'd have to be like a culinary genius to be able to do that, right? But
Yeah.
like meat, I'm thinking like meatballs. I'm thinking like taco bowls. Like anytime you can make a ground beef, but meatballs for me super easy, right? Here's the Italian in me. But I mean, what can you put in meatballs? Well, what can't you put in meatballs is what I'm saying. I
I
mean,
mean,
you can hide anything.
yeah, if it sticks together,
Yeah.
geez, sneak stuff in there,
Seriously.
Bob.
Yeah.
Everything like from oats or ground oats, right? Like
Hmm.
the oat flour
Yep.
for a
Yep.
binder, but then you're
Yeah.
getting in a little extra grain. I think
Yep.
of course, our herbs and spices always come in, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like even beans,
Hmm. Hmm.
that's
Yep.
something that I kind of tinker with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are a couple things I think of right away.
Yeah. And of course, be respectful, listeners, for your digestive system, because what if beans don't work for you? We get it.
Yeah,
I mean, just hear us out, right? These are just
yeah,
ideas we're throwing. So, and even oats, like if you're like, oh no, I'm trying to stay away from oats, we totally get that. But I mean, herbs and spices, super easy. Again, you can throw as many vegetables. Again, just mince them because you want to have them be part of that sticky mixture of the
yeah.
meatball. But we kind of talked about this last time with the sauces. You could actually do some beetroot powder in meatballs, just not too much because it can be
Hmm.
overwhelming. Beetroot powder can increase nitric oxide, increase vasodilation, blood flow. So you've got so many great ways to do that. Even in like, I mean, we do taco bowls or burrito bowls all the time where you can cook some ground turkey or ground beef, and then after I'm done cooking that, I will have another pan cooking some zucchini and some squash and some broccoli or whatever in very small pieces, and then it all goes in the same pan, right?
Hmm.
So many ways to introduce that. The next one I really like because I really like eggs. When I think of eggs, so whenever an athlete says eggs to me, my mind first goes to scrambled eggs. Do you do
Yeah.
the same, D, or is it just me?
Uh,
I always think scrambled for some reason.
I don't know if that I think of
Yeah.
anything other than
Okay.
eggs.
I think. I think I'm just thinking that because I'm like, oh, how do I make something better? So when
Yeah.
someone says, well, I have eggs, I automatically go like default on, oh,
Okay.
scrambled eggs, oh, spices, oh, herbs, oh, veggies, oh, this, oh, that. I don't know. It's just the way
I
my brain
see.
works. But scrambled eggs, it kind of like ground beef or ground turkey, right? Super easy. And this can be the whole egg, the egg white, like it doesn't matter what you're using, obviously. But one of my favorite things to put in there just to supercharge the protein is I actually put cottage cheese
Oh,
in my
yeah.
scrambled
I
eggs.
was just gonna say that. It's so
Yes.
good, Bob.
Oh, it makes it
So
so
good.
creamy, right?
Yeah.
Because I think
Yeah.
like a lot of people have been taught to make scrambled eggs, like you crack the eggs in a bowl, maybe you put some milk or heavy cream or something in and whisk it up.
Yeah.
You don't even need to do that. Like
No.
honestly, I mean, you just put some cottage cheese in there. Oh my gosh, it is so
Yeah.
wonderful. You could also do the same with plain Greek yogurt. It's not that's not my favorite, although I have done it. I like cottage cheese a little bit more for what that does. And for those who have a phobia of cottage cheese, I think you mentioned this last time, Dee, because of the chunks, the
Yeah.
curd, that's an because then you won't even know it's you don't know it's curdy. That's
Right.
not a word, of course, but you don't even know cottage cheese is in your egg. So that's
It,
an easy one.
totally. I mean, and
Yeah.
just along those lines, I mean, this one might be obvious for some of the listeners, but like egg whites, right? I mean, if we're just trying to enhance like the protein
Yes.
content, it's such an easy and I mean, it will fluff it up a little bit more depending
Hmm.
on, how much you mix it in advance or, whisk and things, but and how much you use the ratio of whole egg to egg white. But that's another one to kind of sneak in and bump up the protein content.
For sure. And back to one of your favorites, like one of my favorites with scrambled eggs is a southwestern scramble.
Oh,
So
yeah.
put some beans in there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you name the
Yeah.
bean, and oh my gosh, that's a great way. And put some
Hmm.
tomatoes and zucchini. Like you can really have more of a like a Mexican flair to that with the southwestern feel, right? So that's super easy. And then decorate it with some avocado on top when it's done cooking. I mean, oh my gosh. So like I'm seriously salivating right now. That's Scrambled eggs is one of my most favorite things to make because of all the stuff you can put in it, to be
I was
honest with
going
you.
to just, this isn't helpful for the listener, Bob, but this is my plate this
Oh, well,
morning.
describe it. Describe it, Dee.
So I made scrambled eggs. We had a little bit of leftover ham, so I threw in a little bit of that. I always have spinach with
Hmm.
I just wilt it in the microwave real
Yeah.
quick. But there's a big old pile of black beans on top, and that is from this morning. So yeah, I definitely, it's just enhancing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, visually, I didn't sneak it in because it's just a big old pile on top,
Right.
but
Right.
I think
Yeah.
beans are sometimes hard to sneak in
They are. They are
in
for
some
sure.
cases, but
Yeah. Well, and just to let you guys know, all listeners know, Dina was showing me a photo on her phone of her breakfast. Yes, I think that's part of being a registered dietitian. You have to basically sign a clause to say at least 70% of the meals or snacks you eat, you need to take a photograph of so you
oh
can share.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
because
I
I
mean,
think that's what we do.
does Wendy kind of roll her eyes when you're like, "Hold on, I'll be right there because I got to
Yeah.
photo this meal."
She does, but she actually develops a lot of the recipes that go out for
Oh
energy
yeah.
performance. So she's doing the same thing. She's like, "Don't
Nice.
eat that yet." I'm like,
I
"Oh,
gotta
okay, got
I
it."
love it.
So we're back and
Cool.
forth in the kitchen. Wait, don't touch that. I have to take a photo. Wait, the
Hold
lighting
on.
isn't good.
Exactly. I'm excited for this next category, Bob, because
Why are you excited?
well, here it is. And what do you think of when we say toast?
Yeah, I think
Because,
this is why I'm excited to talk about this because I think when I hear toast, I feel like I know what listeners are thinking. Oh no, that's bad. That's not metabolically
uh-huh.
efficient. That'll drive my blood sugar up. That's not good for me, right? And traditionally, I agree with those statements, right? Because I feel like we haven't looked at toast in the correct lens. And I think
Mhm.
this is where you were going. I think most people say, "Oh, toast, put some butter on it. Toast, put some peanut butter on it." and that's where
Exactly.
we stop, right? Or even
Exactly.
in the past few years, it's been avocado toast, right? Okay, let's give it that, right? We got a little more creative in the past few years,
Yep.
but no, there's so here's the thing. I think we need to challenge ourselves with toast. And listen, listeners, if you don't include toast, like, that's fine. That's totally fine. We're just giving you some options here. We're not definitely we don't badmouth food, but these are some great ways to introduce to a traditional kind of a low nutrient density way of eating bread, I would say, right? Is just putting
Yeah.
in a toaster and slapping some butter on it. These are non-traditional ways to actually increase the nutrient density. And, you know, I will challenge anyone out there because it does depend on your palate. I get that. We're going to give you a couple of ideas here, but I feel like in the morning when most people eat toast, it's usually the sweet version, right? For
Hmm.
the most part.
Yeah.
Now again, the avocado toast has upended that a little bit, but here's, we've got a couple ways just to put stuff in or on toast that maybe will change your mind about this wonderful, maybe a breakfast, maybe even a lunch, maybe even a dinner option, because I feel like toast is just not for breakfast anymore.
Hmm. Please go on, Bob,
Okay.
like a favorite
So
combo.
Oh, favorite combo. So you can do, I mean, I actually, interestingly enough, I just did this with a collegiate team just a little while ago, and we looked at different toast options because I wanted to get away from the norm of, oh, you don't just put like you don't have to just put butter or peanut butter. So one of the ones we actually experimented with was using a really good sourdough bread, like
Mm,
think really good sourdough bread with the culture, you're slicing it. And what we did version one, or option one, was taking an avocado, obviously getting the seed out, mashing it up in a bowl, putting some salt, pepper, garlic salt, whatever you want in there to spice it up a little bit, and then spreading that on the sourdough, right? And again, you can do so many different things here. And then on top of that, you sprinkle a little feta cheese, and then you can use an onion of your liking. So it could be a green onion, red onion, sweet, yellow onion, whatever you want. But what a great savory way to enjoy a really good piece of bread,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
again, there's so many ways you can dress this. I mean, I always try to find opportunities to put olive oil, so you can easily drizzle some olive oil on top of that too. As the Italian garlic lover in me, I would probably find a way. I would probably put garlic in the avocado mash itself.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
that's one super easy way. And listen, like the ingredients are so easy, D. It's not like, and they're fresh, right? You're
Yeah.
like, oh, hey, that's
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I would like to talk about obstacles here in a second, but what are some other ideas for toast?
I mean, I'm thinking of the spreadable,
Mm,
right? Like that base
hmm.
layer that you're
Yep.
describing,
Yep.
because it's not just butter, peanut butter. So we mentioned the avocado. So other spreads, like I love pesto.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, that
Yeah.
is such a amazing. And then, you could put your other protein on top of that. Like if it is scrambled eggs, you're kind
Hmm.
of layering that on top. Or like sometimes we've had some leftover chicken, shredded chicken, which kind of sounds funny to put on toast, but with the
Yeah.
pesto and the chicken and then
Oh, yeah. It's like a
drizzling
chicken
maybe
sandwich. Yeah.
a little, like the olive oil on top or something just to moisten it if it
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
some other little liquid or
Exactly.
hot sauce or something. I know that that doesn't always pair well with pesto, but some kind of
Yeah.
little drizzle.
Yeah.
So that's one that I think of is like that pesto kind of base, and then
Hmm.
building from there. What about you, Bob? What else do you have?
Well, okay, hear me out on this one, but going along the spreadable thought.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone's sitting down, right? And if you're running or riding right now and you're listening to this podcast, you're going to probably do a double take. But as a spreadable on a nice, again, sourdough, or it could be a whole grain, whatever it is, cottage cheese, Dina.
Oh,
Cottage
okay.
cheese. So
Hmm.
use that. And doesn't it's not a spread per se, but start with that as your base, and then you can just
Yeah.
build from there. Kind of like you, like
Yeah.
I would put like cottage cheese and like Kalamata olives and a little bit of
Hmm.
garlic and green onion on it. Oh my gosh. I mean,
Hmm.
wow. And then there's your protein source, right? A lot of more protein with the cottage cheese. But okay, what about our vegetarians in the room? We'll just replace the cottage cheese with hummus and
Yeah.
do the same exact thing, right?
Yeah.
So I think we need to think outside the box. So we've got pesto, we've got an avocado mash, we've got cottage cheese, we've got hummus. I think if we start the toast I think if the base layer, kind of like we're going outside in the wintertime, we put our base layer on, I think your toast needs a base layer spread first because
Mhm.
most of the time it can add some moisture. And the other time it just adds another flavor. But I feel like that could be a lot of the protein also,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one more favorite before I forget about this because I know you have another favorite too. But just like if you think of like a basic bruschetta, where you have nice piece of
Mm,
bread. Again, a sourdough. I go back to sourdough because I just love that to death. But what I like to do with that is so bruschetta, you're going to use like a nice piece of sourdough, or it could be Italian bread, whatever you want. I like sourdough. I actually like to. I'm not going to say drown the bread in extra virgin olive oil, but I like to be liberal with the olive oil first. So that's actually my base,
okay.
right? So I'll drizzle that onto the bread. Then I'll cut fresh mozzarella on top, put some fresh basil if you have it. And then again, if you want to add anything else like Roma tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, absolutely perfect. But I think my point there is maybe try putting the olive oil on the bread first so it soaks it
Yeah.
up. It makes it more a little more moist because usually when we dress olive oil on the end, it kind of it kind of slips off sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
you're right.
Yeah, because nothing ca is catching it.
Yes. We need to
Yes.
absorb that olive oil and not
Yeah, yeah.
lose any of it. Bob, like the visual in my mind as you're describing these is like, holy moly. I mean, even just
Yeah.
the color and the invitation for all of these, the olive oil just being a
Oh,
staple, and then
yes,
getting
yes,
creative maybe with other, back to
exactly.
herbs and spices too. Like I was a newbie 2 years ago to like the everything but the bagel seasoning,
Oh yeah, that stuff
that,
is
and that's
amazing.
so good.
Oh
And
my God. And
sprinkling
it makes it
that,
so easy.
so good.
Right. Yeah. And there's actually a lot of those lately that are popping up, like the all-in-one spices.
Yeah.
And there's actually like a lot of all-in-one spices that don't have salt either. So I think that's really good for maybe some athletes who maybe do have some concerns with blood pressure or whatever, just getting too much salt. But those options are out there. And I think I'm glad you brought that up, Dee, because I feel like some of our listeners might be intimidated by spices because there's so many, and kind of like
Yeah.
your caraway, right? You're like, I don't,
Yeah.
this isn't working. But that's an easy way to get introduced to spices and is kind of these all in one. So I have two things really quick, Dee. Do you think you could put caraway on toast somehow?
Yeah, I think so.
Would that work? You think? Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, what
I
would
think
you?
there are even breads that have caraway in it.
Okay. Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm willing to try.
Yeah.
But I threw out
Maybe
that
maybe with a spread, right? That's what we're getting at. Like
maybe.
you just put like a
Oh,
dried herb or spice on a piece of toast,
I
and that's not
wonder
gonna work.
I wonder if caraway goes with cottage cheese. Okay, I don't
Yeah.
know. We're gonna
Yeah.
have to experiment here. The
Well,
chefs that are listening are like, holy moly, they need
I
some
know. What are they talking
culinary
about?
skills.
But listen, that's what we're saying is like use your taste preferences, use your taste buds. Like if
Yeah,
something doesn't taste right, that's cool.
yeah,
Like just find another spice or find another herb,
right.
right? You don't have to stick with that one. Dee, I want to intro this one, and it might be our last one because we were chatting a little bit about this, and you caught me. You really got my interest up on this. And I'm gonna kind of set it up a little bit, right? So here's the setup, our last option for toast. And I'm gonna challenge you a little bit. Starts with S, ends with T, right? Just to
Okay.
get your brain firing
Oh
here.
no, it's not
But
a four-letter
it
naughty
might be
word, is it?
it's not a not. Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. It is a four-letter word, but I mean, it also could be naughty in some cases.
Oh no. Anyways, we might have to cut that
Anyway,
out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think you should leave that for sure. So here's what I'm talking. Here, let me set this up. So athlete X wakes up in the morning. "Oh, I'm not that hungry, but I've got to work out, and it
Yeah.
may be a little bit challenging. And I know I'm a little bit dehydrated. I'm not going to eat a lot. Maybe you know what? I'm just going to grab this bottle. I'm gonna shake some electrolytes in there, whatever electrolyte powder you're using, and call it good. I'll just drink that and kind of see what happens. What happens, right? Well, I was thinking about that. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, drinking some electrolytes in the morning with some water. Okay, I get it. But then you mentioned this four-letter word. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that might be brilliant
Oh
on
yeah.
toast. So what is that four-letter word, D?
Oh, well, we're gonna mention salt.
Salt. Oh, so it's not
Salt.
oh, sorry.
No, salt on toast. I mean, obviously you want some protein. and
Yeah.
some other goodies if you want, but like salt on your toast is so good, especially if it's like the coarse sea salt. It
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
tastes
Yeah.
so good. I mean, the classic is like your peanut butter, and your salt, and maybe you
Yeah.
need a little maple or something if you need to do that. But the salt on many of these other combinations we've been talking about,
Hmm.
oi, oi, oi. And then you don't have to necessarily, depending on what's up for you training wise, but that could be a way to get your needed like pre-workout sodium.
That's true, right? And I
Yeah,
think about that because when you first told me that, I'm like, you're just gonna put salt on bread? That's not gonna stay, right?
right.
So I like you kind of what you're saying. Like you could absolutely, again, kind of the base layer, right? Let's think
Yeah,
toast and base layers. So peanut butter, most peanut butter, or let's just say nut butters, most nut butters actually are made from salted nuts, right? So
yeah,
there's no re like you might think, why would I put salt on nut butter? Well, it's
yeah,
already there, most likely, right? So that goes well. Even like cottage cheese, you could
yeah,
easily salt cottage cheese, right? I'm just thinking of the base layers we've talked about.
yeah.
If you put something like a fresh mozzarella, if that, I mean, you can easily salt that. Hummus, you could salt hummus, right? I mean, depending on if you're
Avocado.
doing a flavored, yeah,
Yep.
avocado, right? So there's so many ways to actually salt that. And like you said, like maybe not get away from the electrolytes, but I feel like we can use electrolytes more strategically other
Mhm.
times throughout the day or maybe even during a workout, right? So
Yeah.
be a really interesting way of incorporating salt, that wonderful,
Yeah.
the non-naughty four-letter word for most people.
Right, right. I mean, I think just mentioning here a little goes a long way. A pinch or
Totally.
two is
Oh
probably
gosh.
good,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but that's not very quantifiable. Like you kind of want to know what your pinch is versus my
Yes.
pinch.
Yes.
But like an eighth of a teaspoon to a quarter of
Hmm.
a teaspoon, if you're measuring, is probably a good range. And that's getting you a good 600 or so milligrams of
Hmm.
sodium, maybe a touch more, depending on how heavy your pinch is.
Right. And it kind of
But
depends on how big your bread is, of course, too,
yeah,
right? So yeah, you can be
exactly.
more liberal if you spread that out a little bit more. But
Yeah,
no, it's a great way of doing that. Yeah. So I don't know, Dee. I feel like we've really opened up some opportunities for our
yeah,
listeners to just maybe think outside the box when it comes to getting more nutrient density
yeah.
in and out of your foods and even, just some creative ways of doing it.
I would love for, especially over on our Patreon community, Bob is a great place for exchanging some other ideas, but
Hmm.
anything that's resonating for our listeners, would love to hear if you're trying something new, which we would high five you for
Hmm.
doing or high 10 you. Just these simple ways to really, like you said, enhance our nutrient profile of the foods that we're already eating
Hmm.
and how we can benefit in so many ways and maybe kind of come up with new favorites, which is super exciting.
Yeah, because we're having discussions on our Patreon account right now. So this would be a great way to engage in all of you listeners, right? Just head on over patreon.com/ISN podcast. And D, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a minimum, since we're on this toast thing, we're going to put a minimum of 5 toast recipes that where you can sneak extra nutrients in and kind of outside the box. So we're going to
Okay.
put that over on our Patreon account for our members only, because we like to give a shout out to them and thank you so much for supporting us, everyone, of course. But yeah, head on over there and engage in some of our discussions, conversations. Look at some of our free content because we've got a lot of different options of joining or just kind of hanging out. And but of course, the reason is there a reason why we're actually set up a Patreon account, D?
Yeah, Bob. I mean, we love interacting with our listeners and building this community, but we are sponsor free and we love that because we get to be more upfront and speak, without having to abide by sponsorship rules and all of that stuff. Plus, I always have to fast forward through those pods like
Oh
10,
my
15
gosh.
minutes.
It
And
is
that
literally
is,
like in the 10 to 15 minute range
I
now.
know,
It's
I know.
horrible. Oh my gosh.
So,
Thank you
but
for
anyway,
mentioning.
so we are aiming to remain sponsor
That's good.
free.
Yeah.
And with the help of our awesome listeners, that, all of the contributions or donations go directly to the operation of this pod and our awesome publisher, Don. So we're keeping him going with us. And it just allows us extra behind the scenes action with
And
our listeners.
And even like every month, we're posting kind of our goals, our nutrition goals, our training goals of the month that are kind of behind the scenes, almost not top secret, but kind of secret, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Our progress and our training are, we're going to, I know both of you and I are getting our blood work done soon. So we're going to share
yep,
that information
yep.
on Patreon and kind of what we're doing about it. So it's one thing like, oh, hey, I've got my blood work, here it is. But, I think the reason why you and I get blood work is so we can tinker with things and try
Hmm.
out new strategies. So we're going to be sharing all of those related to a lot of different biomarkers and only in our Patreon community. So that's another great reason to head on over there besides supporting us, because again, we love that and we love you all to death. But as Dee said, just to reiterate, I mean, we are going to be, you said we're aiming, to remain. We are 100% going to be sponsor free until we stop this podcast. I can say that wholeheartedly because, Dean and I like sharing what we share, right? And
Yeah,
we don't want any manipulations to that. And we don't want you to have to fast forward through all those different things. So we're
yeah.
probably a little too long-winded now. You're probably fast forwarding through this section.
I was just thinking
So
that.
with that, Dee, we should probably wrap it up. Anything
All
else for
right.
our listeners?
No, except go have fun with your food and yeah, take on some of these suggestions. Share a picture over on Instagram and tag us, ISN Podcast. We'd love to see your food photos and creations. Okay, well, with that, Bob, we will close out for today and we will check in with everyone on our next episode.